UNTV News and Rescue.
Tonight on Y News. Malacañang maintains there is no need to release a medical bulletin of President Rodrigo Duterte. Some lawmakers believe reforms in the criminal justice system should be prioritized more than the passage of the death penalty bill.
Accredited hospitals of the Department of Health will be on code white alert starting tomorrow. PNP Chief Ronald Bato de la Rosa withdraws his statement on the cash bonus for key police officers.
Turkish police arrest the family of the man who killed Russian Ambassador Andrei Karlov. And scientists discover 163 new species in Greater Mekong region, but warn that global population of endangered animals might decline in the coming years.
Y News begins now.
UNTV News and Rescue Command Center. This is Y News with Angelo Castro III, Gerry Alcantara, and Darlene Basingan.
Good evening. Malacañang believes there is no need to release the medical bulletin of President Rodrigo Duterte and that his public disclosures on his health status is enough. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
Malacañang insists that President Rodrigo Duterte is at the peak of his health and it shows through his actions and schedule, which is more than the 8 working hours. President Duterte has also been to various trips in and out of the country. The Malacañang made a statement upon calls for the regular release of the President's medical bulletin.
He actually keeps us updated with what's happening to him.
But if it's on paper, he cannot take back his words, sir.
Yeah, but what's the point? What do you trust, the paper or his actions? You see him. He's all over the place.
The President has revealed his health conditions publicly, such as his spinal issues and his intake of medicine for cancer patients.
He's very, very transparent about what he takes, what he has stopped, and when he does. So in this sense, this is where we have the benefit of an extremely transparent president. And so he keeps us updated. But based on results, he seems to be going very, very well. Apparently, he draws strength from an inner source of well-being.
It is also normal that the health conditions of the president is brought about by his old age.
Take him seriously in the sense that he doesn't always feel in the peak of health. However, as my doctor said in Philippine Heart Center, he said, much of these things we go through are really wear and tear. I mean, he's 72 years old. Give him a break.
Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacañang.
The Chinese government offers grant and long-term soft loans to the Philippine government, according to Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana. Brian De Paz will tell us why.
The Chinese government is serious in helping the Duterte administration fight illegal drugs and terrorism. That is why they have offered grants and long-term soft loan in order to pursue the government's campaign. The offer comes after the meeting between the Philippine government and its Chinese counterparts.
Yung 100 million yuan grant. Initially, sabi nila gusto nila tayong bigyan ng $500 million worth of loan, long-term soft loan. They want to help us fight terrorism and drugs.
Lorenzana says the amount is a big help for the purchase and improvement of the equipment of the armed forces of the Philippines. Lorenzana says the list of equipment they plan to purchase is expected to be finalized next year.
Maybe, siguro, kung matutuloy yung mga, kasi pupuntahin ko yung mga tao natin doon, mga technical working group to look at the equipment, siguro within the next quarter, first quarter siguro, second quarter of next year.
Lorenzana believes that the offer from China will help greatly with their modernization program. However, Secretary Lorenzana denies discussing the West Philippine Sea at the meeting. Meanwhile, Secretary Lorenzana visited today the wounded soldiers at the AFP Medical Center. The soldiers thanked the government for their support. They assured that after their recovery, they will continue on with their duty of protecting the country.
Kahit na ganito yung nangyari sa akin, sir, tuloy pa rin, sir. Walang magbabago. Ang masasabi ko lang sa Pangulo natin, sir, na unang-una, sir, nagpapasalamat kami dahil yung suporta at saka pagmamahal niya sa amin mga sundalo.
Brian De Paz, UNTV News and Rescue, Camp Aguinaldo.
The Philippines has no existing policy yet on the proposed joint oil exploration between the Philippines and China in the West Philippine Sea, which was mentioned by President Rodrigo Duterte last night. According to Malacañang, the president perhaps was referring to a business-to-business partnership in his statement. Nevertheless, Malacañang maintains to uphold the arbitral ruling.
Yeah, the government can still will continue to adhere to their rulings because these are our properties, technically our properties.
Meanwhile, some Solons want to prioritize reforming the criminal justice system in the country than to support the passage of the death penalty bill. Nel Maribohok will tell us why.
Buhay Party List Representative Lito Atienza stands firm in his position that the lower house should consider first the reforms in the justice system before focusing on the passage of the reimposition of death penalty in the country. This was at the center of the debate between Congressman Atienza and Deputy House Speaker Castro on the program Get It Straight with Daniel Razon. According to Congressman Castro, death penalty should consistently be implemented to effectively gain a better result in lessening crimes in the country.
Pag inumpisahan mo, ituloy-tuloy mo, ipakita mo sa taong bayan na hindi ka nagbibiro, ipakita mo na seryoso ka sa iyong programa.
Problema, Daniel, hindi mangyayari yung sinasabi ni Congressman Castro.
Bakit po?
Dahil yung criminal justice system, may diferensya nga eh. The certainty of arrest, pag tiyak na tiyak, mahuhuli ka. Doon ka iiwas na gumawa ng masama.
The party list representative emphasizes on the persistence of corruption in the judiciary, wherein poor Filipinos are the primary victims of injustice. But the Deputy House Speaker insists that with the passage of the death penalty bill is the push for the passage of bills that seek to reform the justice system. These include the proposed establishment of new local courts and reform on the national penitentiary. The leadership of the lower house sees the death penalty as an instrument in attaining true justice for victims of heinous crimes.
Paano ang katarungan yun na ipinatay mo lang?
Ang katarungan dyan, Kuya Daniel, ay kung anong inutang mo, yun ang dapat bayaran mo. Kung ikukulong mo lamang ang tao, sasabihin mo mahirap ang pagkakulong, pero hindi yan nagdadala ng mensahe sa mga darating o kasalukuyang gagawa pa ng krimen.
The Solon also says this is the appropriate time under the Duterte administration to pass the death penalty bill that some lawmakers still oppose.
Sapagkat nakikita ko ang panahon ngayon, ang sitwasyon ngayon at ang karumal-dumal na nangyayari na krimen.
Hindi ko naman masisisi si Congressman eh. Talagang nakakagalit ang nangyayari.
Totoo.
Yung mga sinasabi niyang krimen, abay, pag hindi ka naman nagalit sa ganun. Kaya kami gusto namin parusahan ng tama. Pag ikaw ay nakulong.
The proposed reimposition of death penalty is scheduled to be tackled in the plenary in January. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, House of Representatives.
The Department of Justice today starts the preliminary probe on the killing of Albuera Leyte Mayor Rolando Espinosa. Some policemen, however, question their inclusion in the charges. Roderick Mendoza will tell us why.
The Department of Justice starts today its preliminary investigation on the killing of Mayor Rolando Espinosa Sr. and inmate Raul Yap. 23 of the policemen charged with multiple murder attended the hearing, including former CIDG Region 8 Chief Police Superintendent Marvin Marcos. But majority of them are yet to engage the services of a counsel. One policeman says they couldn't get a lawyer because they are under restrictive custody in Camp Crame.
Hindi naman kayo kailangan ng kayo mismo hanap na abogado eh. Diba? Alam naman siguro na mga pamilya ninyo kung ano nangyari sa inyo. Eh bakit yung iba nakakuha ng abogado?
The DOJ prosecution panel set the next hearing on January 23 for the submission of respondents' counter affidavits. The panel stressed that they will not allow an extension, saying they had given the policemen enough time to get a lawyer. Some of the policemen questioned their inclusion in the charges. PO1 Crystal Jane Gisma and PO1 Divine Grace Ongalia are wondering why they were charged even when they are not involved in the operation.
Alam mo din, kaya natin ginagawa to, pag-aaralan din namin. Dahil di naman namin hawak ang isip nung naghabla sa inyo.
A lawyer for one of the respondents says the NBI should also clarify the inclusion of a certain SPO for Eric Constantino in the charges.
But there is no such person in the PNP with the name of SPO for Eric Constantino. We have a police senior inspector, Eric Constantino. That's a very big issue. That's a very big question. It only means to say that, to me, personally, this is a reckless and wanton complaint insofar as those persons are concerned.
Meanwhile, ex-convict Paul Olendan, who testified for the issuance of a search warrant used in the operation, was a no-show in the hearing. Roderick Mendoza, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Accredited hospitals of the Department of Health will be on code white alert starting tomorrow. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
During this time, from December 21 up to January 5, naka-code white po tayo. Ibig sabihin yan ay wala na pong pinapayagan mag-leave at yung lahat po ng personnel needed like mga surgeons, mga nurses, OR nurses are on standby.
DOH accredited hospitals will be under code white alert starting tomorrow so they could address health-related cases this holiday season. Therefore, all hospital staff from nursing and administrative personnel to doctors will be on call as preparation for the expected influx of firecracker victims. The Las Piñas General Hospital and Satellite Trauma Center is among the inspected hospitals, in line with the department's monitoring of hospitals with lack of equipment. The management of the said hospital says although they are prepared to treat victims, it would still be better for the public to avoid using firecrackers.
Sana wala nang firecracker injuries, no? Kasi common yan sa kamay eh. Sa kamay nakikita yung mga injury sa mukha, no? Sa mata. So, hangga't maaari, iwasan na natin magpaputok.
Based on DOH data, 40% of firecracker victims are children. Because of this, the DOH advises parents to monitor their children and to just watch fireworks displays in common public areas designated by local government units to avoid accidents.
We'll be working with them, especially in passing of a city ordinance in support of the EO that will be issued to make sure that no more tingi or retails in our stores.
Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Las Piñas City.
The Philippine National Police or PNP reminds the public anew to avoid using firecrackers this holiday season. On the parade grounds of Camp Crame, the PNP ignited several illegal and powerful varieties of firecrackers confiscated in Bulacan to show the damages caused by fireworks. First to be ignited was the so-called Coke in can, which caused a pork meat placed near the said firecracker to disintegrate and scatter. A firecracker called Goodbye Philippines, placed inside a cubic container with hollow blocks, was also ignited, which pulverized the hollow blocks.
Yan, nagkaroon ng burning effect kung mapapansin nyo yung itim. UP yung natin, UP yung yero natin, and then yung mga kahoy na wala, tanggal. So meaning, kahit nakatago ka sa kahoy, sa yero, hindi ka pa rin safe.
The Department of Trade and Industry has asked the Metropolitan Manila Development Authority or MMDA to loosen the window hours this holiday season. Joyce Balancho will tell us why.
The Department of Trade and Industry or DTI has ensured the public that there will be no shortage of food supply this holiday season.
As a whole, walang kakulangan. There could be some sporadic areas of reported lack, but it's not a lack na parang wala ka na mabibili in any other place.
DTI Undersecretary Teodoro Pascua says to avoid any spike in prices of food products commonly purchased this season, they have asked the Metropolitan Manila Development Authority or MMDA to loosen the window hours on the number coding scheme. This is to guarantee that products will be sufficiently delivered to grocery stores where shoppers are expected to arrive in the coming days.
DTI advises the public to have an early shopping to avoid adding up to the worst traffic and the biggest number of shoppers that are expected days before December 25.
Before purchasing any item, the public is also advised to check the expiry dates and best before seals. Meanwhile, to check if grocery stores are compliant to the suggested retail prices or SRPs, the DTI inspected at least 3 supermarkets today. One establishment passed the DTI standards for selling food products cheaper than their SRPs. DTI has also placed a listing of SRPs as a guide for these stores.
Well, it gives us a sense of hanggang dyan lamang sana ang presyo. We're not in a regime of price control. No, ang regime pa rin natin law of supply and demand, free market forces. Kaya lang, there is a semblance already of what is tolerable and what is not.
Yusek Pascua meanwhile disclosed that 2 supermarkets have been found to be violating DTI standards for the lack of price tags and problems with pricing.
May show cause order na sila, and then if their reasons may be valid or acceptable, then we may, issue the warning.
Joyce Balancio, UNTV News and Rescue, Mandaluyong City.
Next in Y News. PNP Chief Ronald De La Rosa withdraws his statement on the cash bonus for key police officers.
Government agencies collaborate to address the growing number of street children and families, especially during the holiday season.
The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas launches today new Duterte-signed banknotes.
Y News will be right back. Philippine National Police Chief Director General Ronald De La Rosa has withdrawn his statement yesterday that key PNP officials will receive a huge cash bonus from Malacañang. Marge Navarro will tell us why.
All the key officers from sa directorial staff, yung director to XO, tapos sa initios, from director to chief of staff, sa regions, from director, from RD to chief of staff. Lahat po kayo, after this, just proceed to my office at kunin nyo yung pamasko na galing kay President Duterte.
This was the invitation of PNP Chief Ronald De La Rosa regarding the supposed cash gifts to key PNP officers by Malacañang. However, the anticipated cash bonus did not arrive yesterday. General De La Rosa says the palace is still looking for funds for the said cash bonus.
Naghintay kami kahapon, kaso nung nag-preskon tayo, marami nagtatanong kung saan ang source, saan galing. Siguro, na-discourage sa Malacañang magbigay, hanggang ginabi na lang, walang dumating.
The Malacañang meanwhile believes that the personnel of PNP deserves to receive a bonus as a reward for performing well in their duties. However, presidential spokesperson Ernesto Abella will still have to determine the person from Malacañang who said that senior officials of the PNP will receive cash gifts.
I can find out, but based on the last statement that I received from PNP chief, it was they did not receive anything, and that it seems that nothing is forthcoming.
Meanwhile, Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana cannot ascertain if they will receive cash gifts this year aside from the 13th month pay.
Hindi ko pa alam kung magkakaroon kami dahil hindi naman nagpapunta si Presidente sa amin. Bahala na sa Presidente kung magbigay sa o hindi.
March Navarro, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The construction of another modern drug rehabilitation and treatment center in the country is expected to begin next year. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
We're trying to expand the capacities of the Department of Health so that we can address this problem.
This will be shared by other cities in Metro Manila and the neighboring cities of Taguig.
The Department of Health, Department of the Interior and Local Government, Office of the Cabinet Secretary, and a private firm signed today a contract for the construction of a modern drug rehabilitation and treatment center that will be built on Camp Bagong Diwa in Taguig City. The facility is believed to accommodate about 500 drug reformists and is approximately about 6,800 square meters wide.
We plan to build more, of course, in other parts of the Philippines. So this is basically just the start of many more facilities that we hope to build along with the DILG and DOH.
One of the ways by which we can decongest is yung mga nandiyan ngayon sa kulungan na mga 1 to 3 years lang, yung light lang ang charges sa kanila. Maybe we can transfer them to the rehab centers.
Administration officials, meanwhile, has expressed gratitude to those who are helping the government and the country's problem on illegal drugs and urged critics to help as well.
Stop criticizing. Instead, participate in this program to rehabilitate our own people.
There are 44 DOH-accredited drug rehabilitation centers across the country, but only 15 are government-owned. Next year, 6 more mega rehab centers are expected to be constructed across the Philippines. The construction is expected to be completed by 2018. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Pasay City.
A former drug user has sought for the assistance of UNTV Serbisyong Kasangbahay so he could approach the authorities. Brian De Paz will tell us why.
With the help of UNTV's Serbisyong Kasangbahay, Elias Lino has been assisted to undergo the process of the government for illegal drug users. Elias Lino is 34 years old with 4 children and resides at Tondo, Manila. He admits being a shabu user from 2004 to 2011. This is why he was surprised after learning that his name is still included in the list of drug personalities in their barangay. The Serbisyong Kasangbahay team accompanied him to the Police Community Relations Group or PCRG office at Camp Crame. There he was advised to go the precinct that has jurisdiction over their barangay or to the Manila Police District Station 1 in Rahabago, Tondo. The commander of the precinct, Colonel Robert Domingo, immediately acted on Elias Lino's concern and coordinated with the chairman of Barangay 129, Zone 11.
Gagawin natin dyan. So, the first step is kung saan nag-originate yung information, doon muna tayo pupunta.
Chairman Danny Casasola assures that Elias Lino, after completing his verification requirements, will be issued with certification from his barangay which proves that he is not using illegal drugs anymore so that his name can finally be removed from the list.
Certified ko po ang lahat ng na gumagamit at talagang kung sila ay huminto, isa-certified po namin mga kagawad. Kaya nga po pati ang kagawad ay sumama na po, na-involve po sa pagsumpa na kami ay gagampanan namin, na kami makikipagtulungan kay Presidente Digong at kay Mayor Era po para pigilan ng droga po sa aming lugar.
The barangay chairman and police call on other personalities in the drug list to not be ashamed to undergo the said process.
Kayo matakot, hindi naman po natin kalaban ng gobyerno eh. Sila po ay kakampi natin.
Sunod-sunod ang proseso. Talagang more on evaluation, surveillance, interview. Yan ang mga proseso.
Elias Lino feels relief for the help extended by UNTV's Serbisyong Kasangbahay.
Pasalamat po ako sa lahat kasi po kahit papaano po
Hindi na po ako kinakabahan, gumana po ang yung kalooban ko, yung paglapit ko po sa UNTV. Maraming salamat sa UNTV kahit papaano po, hindi nila ako binitawan.
Brian De Paz, UNTV News and Rescue, Tondo, Manila.
The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas launches today the new banknotes bearing the signature of President Rodrigo Duterte. BSP Deputy Governor Diwa Gunigundo says they have released today 5 million pieces each of 1,000, 500, 150 and 20 peso bills and 2 million pieces of 200 peso bills, which totaled to 8.25 billion pesos distributed across banks nationwide. In other news, the Bureau of Customs is confident in maintaining high revenue collection this month. Agak Akbay will tell us why.
The Bureau of Customs expects to achieve its target revenue collection for the month of December and even for the entire year.
The Bureau expects to achieve a good revenue collection performance this month, similar to that of November, when the Bureau was able to exceed its target revenue collection by more than 3 billion or close to 4 billion.
Last month, the revenue collection of BOC exceeded its target by 3 billion pesos. The agency was also able to collect 19.947 billion pesos in the first half of December. The amount is 57% of its 35.116 billion pesos assessed target last month. The BOC is already at 93.3% of its 409 billion pesos assessed target for 2016.
The factors are the continuous pasok po ng ating mga kargamento, hindi po nagbabawas. Bagkus dumadami ho ang entries na pumapasok on a day-to-day basis.
The agency believes that the high revenue collection is the cumulative result of Commissioner Faildon's positive ratings, cooperation among stakeholders, transparency in BOC transactions, and the assistance being provided for by traders. Agak Akbay, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacañang.
The Department of Social Welfare and Development, together with other government agencies, identified possible solutions to the rising number of children and families living on the streets. Grace Casin tells us why.
The number of street children and families are increasing as the holidays draw near. In the latest data of the DSWD, there are 4,400 street children in Metro Manila alone. That is why the Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, together with LGUs and NGOs, laid their plans to address this problem. They want to strengthen coordination among agencies involved.
The efforts of assisting our children on the streets would be regular, would have the support of the local government units, would have the support of the different national government agencies, such as the Department of Education, the DORE, DTI, and of course the ILG, and the private sector and NGOs.
Based on their studies, most of the street children are Bajau and Aitas that came from Tarlac, Zambales, Laguna, Batangas, Zamboanga, and Holos, Sulu. They rent a jeepney to bring them to Metro Manila.
May September, nag-aano na sila kung kaninong jeep ang iaarkila, kailan sila po pwedeng sumakay. Dumadating po sila mga alanganing oras Nakalagay yung sa unahan ng jeep, excursion o kaya educational trip.
According to DSWD, the penalizing of street children's parents by some LGUs has proven effective, but not all LGUs are implementing this measure. One of the solutions being considered by DSWD is visiting these vagrants in their hometowns and bringing them gifts and food.
We can come up with a gift-giving drive already para sa mga aitas doon sa mga barangay na pinagkukunan, so that they don't need to come here.
If anyone wants to report street children, you can directly coordinate with the barangay or call DSWD hotline 931-8101-207. Grace Casin, UNTV News and Rescue, Makati City.
The new programs of the Department of Agriculture are expected to help increase rice production in the country. Ray Pelayo will tell us why.
Data from the Department of Agriculture shows the post-harvest production loss of palay reaches 16%. It translates to 3.2 million metric tons of palay production in the country that yields 20 million metric tons annually, not counting the 5% loss also in the milling process using old rice mills. This is what the Agriculture Department wants to avoid, hence the implementation of the Masagana 6,000 program. The DA is targeting to increase production to 6,000 kilos or 6 metric tons per hectares from the current 3.9 metric tons.
Ang purpose ng Masaganang Ani 6,000 is to address the issues that would contribute to productivity.
This program will be implemented on 1 million hectares of irrigated areas. Farmers will be assisted with hybrid seeds, fertilizers, efficient irrigation systems, and mechanization. Japan will help in the adoption of new machineries. The department is now doing its best to extend the quantitative restriction that will end in the mid of 2017. The quantitative restriction deters the mass importation of rice in the country. However, the market is feared to be flooded with imported rice once restriction is lifted. DA is asking 2-year extension on the QR. If Masagana 6,000 is successful, rice self-sufficiency is anticipated to be achieved by 2019.
Kasalanan ng gobyerno kung bakit nagkulang kami. Hindi na ibigay yung tamang bini, hindi na ibigay yung tamang suporta sa irigasyon, hindi na ibigay yung tamang suporta sa fertilization, hindi sila nabigyan ng akses sa merkado.
Ray Pilayo, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Coming up, Turkish police arrest the family of the gunman who shot dead Russian envoy to Turkey, Ambassador Andrei Karlov.
Conservationist World Wildlife Fund, or WWF, warns that global population of endangered animals might decline by year 2020.
Police Chief Director General Ronald De La Rosa highly recommends Isang Araw, Ikatlong Yugto to PNP members and their families.
More from Y News after this break. The northeast monsoon is affecting northern Luzon based on the Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical and Astronomical Services Administration or PAGASA's forecast. The regions of Ilocos, Cordillera, Cagayan Valley and Central Luzon will experience isolated light rains. Metro Manila and the rest of the country will have partly cloudy to cloudy skies with isolated rain showers and thunderstorms, mostly in the eastern section. Meanwhile, a low-pressure area is expected to enter the Philippine Area of Responsibility on Thursday or Friday. It was located at 2,035 kilometers east of Mindanao. Homeless people in the Midwest in the United States battle the freezing weather amid uncertainty. Kath Carriedo will tell us why.
With most homeless shelters in Chicago already full, it's not easy for homeless people to find a warm shelter. Jeffrey has begged on Michigan Avenue for 2 years. He said he has no choice but to stay on the streets during the freezing weather and hope for public support.
The lottery system, you give it a number, and if they don't draw your number, you don't get in. Then you're stuck out in the suburbs with nowhere to get warm.
Homeless people are suffering on the streets as heavy snow brought by a strong cold front sweeps across the U.S. Midwest. Many of the homeless are veterans, some of whom are disabled, while others are mothers with young children. Long lines form outside shelters are common, with many just trying to find a place to stay warm and find food.
Yeah, when the weather gets cold like this, we see a lot more people because it's life and death on the street. You know, the cold weather might be an inconvenience for us, but when you're homeless, it is a matter of life and death. We'll have a few hundred more. So tonight we'll probably sleep near 800 people. We serve over 2,000 meals a day. When you think about that, that number is absolutely amazing.
Though the shelters are crowded, it remains the only option for many homeless who have nowhere else to go to fend off the cold or even death.
Because I believe it's better to be in a shelter on a mat than outside on the streets where you'll die. So we see people come in sometimes, they have frostbite. Their health is poor because they're trying to live outside. When it gets so cold they can't stay under bridges or anywhere else, they will be forced to come into a shelter.
The local government has recently cut its budget on assisting shelters, with many such institutions now having to appeal to local communities to offer the support needed to help the city's homeless people. Kat Carriedo, UNTV News and Rescue, Chicago.
Heavy rains and floods cut roads, covered sugarcane fields, and caused landslides in Fiji, prompting residents to rush to evacuation centers on Tuesday. According to Fiji's National Disaster Management Office, about 1,700 people sought refuge in 46 evacuation centers across the nation, while another 1,800 remain in tents. Authorities confirmed there are no reports of fatalities or serious injuries, but added that the township of Raki had suffered major flooding. Many roads and fields nationwide are still underwater.
The flood warning remains in force for low-lying areas and small streams for the whole of Fiji.
The Russian ambassador to Turkey was shot dead while giving a speech in an art exhibit. Meanwhile, authorities are still investigating who drove a truck towards a crowd of people in a holiday market in Berlin. March Navarro will tell us why.
In Germany, a large truck plowed into a crowd at a holiday market in Berlin on Monday night, killing 12 people and injuring 50 others. The truck drove over the sideway of a major public square near the location of the iconic Kaiser Wilhelm Memorial Church in the inner city of Berlin. According to the police, the passenger of the truck died on the spot, while a suspicious person was arrested following the incident. The motive of the incident remains unknown, but police have begun investigations which point to a possible terrorist attack. The police have also called on citizens in Berlin to stay at home and not to spread rumors. And in Russia, Russian ambassador to Turkey Andrei Karlov was killed in a gunman attack at an art exhibition on Monday in Ankara. The Russian Foreign Ministry said the ambassador was shot as he was speaking at the opening of a photographic art exhibition.
Beyinden çıkarttığı silahı büyükelçiye ve daha sonra salondakilere yöneltti. Biz tabii can havliyle yere attık kendimizi. O sırada saldırganın ben silahı tavana doğru doğrultulduğunu gördüm ve büyükelçinin de yerde yattığını gördüm ne yazık ki.
The gunman was shot dead at the scene and identified as 22-year-old Turkish police officer Mevlut Mert Altintas. Karlov was sent to the hospital but died despite emergency rescue efforts. After the attack, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan had a phone conversation with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin, who offered to send security officers to Turkey for the investigation. Both sides believe the attack is a public provocation aiming at destroying the relations between Turkey and Russia. The incident came one day before the tri-party meeting among the top diplomats of Russia, Turkey, and Iran over the Syrian crisis scheduled for Tuesday in Moscow. The incident prompted closure of US and Iranian embassies in Istanbul for possible threats. Marge Navarro, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
In line with that report, the Turkish police has detained 6 people over the killing of Russian ambassador Andrei Karlov, who was shot in the back as he gave a speech in Ankara on Monday. The gunman, an off-duty police officer, was heard shouting, "Don't forget Aleppo" and Allahu Akbar after the shooting. Reports say on Tuesday that the attacker's mother, father, sister, and 2 other relatives were held in the western province of Aydin, while his flatmate in Ankara was also detained. In other news, the World Wildlife Fund, or WWF, says global population of endangered animals might decline by the year 2020. RJ Timoteo will tell us why.
A rainbow-headed snake and a dragon-like lizard are among 163 new species that scientists recently discovered in the Greater Mekong region. This based on the report of the conservation group World Wildlife Fund, or WWF, published on Monday, December 19th. The group adds that rapid development in the area from dams to mines is threatening wildlife survival. The discoveries include a gecko in Laos with pale blue skin and a rare banana species discovered in northern Thailand that is critically endangered because of increasing deforestation. WWF Southeast Asian Conservation Director Nicholas J. Cox says the discoveries over the recent years indicates that the region is special. Yet, despite the excitement of the new discoveries, Cox said the scientists and conservationists will have to work harder.
So on the one hand, this is incredibly exciting that we're finding these new species, but it also encourages us to work even harder to make sure that when we do find new species, that not only do we protect the habitat where they live, which has in turn benefits for us as people, but also really work hard to improve the enforcement to ensure that they're not lost to the trade and to really work on changing people's attitudes to consuming wild animals in a way that is just not sustainable at all.
WWF considers the Greater Mekong as home to some of the world's most endangered species, but also a global hub for illegal wildlife trade. Rare or endangered animal parts, including tiger bones and rhino horns, are seen as collector's items by some and are often used in traditional medicine. In June, Thai wildlife authorities raided the Tiger Temple west of Bangkok. There, they discovered scores of dead tiger cubs, frozen tiger carcasses, skins, and dead cubs in jars, as well as other protected species. A 2016 report by WWF found that by 2020, global populations of fish, birds, amphibians, mammals, and reptiles could have declined by 2/3 in just 50 years. RJ Timoteo, UNTV News and Rescue, Vietnam.
A Chinese teacher believes scrap metals can become good raw materials for stunning art pieces. Nina Armilio tells us why.
Just as one person's trash is another person's treasure, a college art teacher from Taiwan in North China's Shanxi province is using industrial waste metal to create sculptures.
I believe every waste metal part contains the wisdom of its designers. They are works of art as they are. I want to use them to create something new and make them alive again.
40-year-old Huang Kai uses waste metals as the building blocks for his masterpieces. Huang has completed more than 200 iron sculptures over a decade, with roughly half of them having been sold. Huang Kai used to make iron sculptures in Beijing. Since returning to his hometown, he rented a farmyard in order to continue making his sculptures. As a frequent visitor to local recycling centers, Huang has spent almost all of his earnings buying waste metal parts, totaling hundreds of thousands of yuan. He believes his sculptures bear witness to China's rapid and ongoing industrialization.
The number of cars in China has increased rapidly in recent years, which has exacerbated problems like traffic congestion and air pollution. So I've used lots of scrap metal from old cars in my sculptures to mark the industrial age.
Huang Kai has recently been working on the 12 animal head sculptures from traditional Chinese culture. He plans to include more cultural elements in his future works, and he also hopes to make mega sculptures as symbols for China's cities. Nina Armilio, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
FIFA imposes a lifelong ban against two former soccer officials. Meanwhile, the World Anti-Doping Agency looks into future sanctions for dopers. Aaron Romero tells us why.
The president of the World Anti-Doping Agency, or WADA, Craig Reedy, says he believes problems with doping in professional sports goes beyond athletics.
When I found out what had happened on the retesting done by the IFC, I was pretty furious. I still think the games were great games, but it's a huge blow that this is now brought to light. I don't think it's just athletics, Jim, and I think there are other sports involved.
Reedy added that WADA is considering whether to evolve its sanction systems against dopers.
Going forward, we are looking at our own governance. We're looking at a sanctioning system so that instead of at the moment we sanction people for being rule non-compliant, they have to be performance non-compliant so that future sanctions will be graded and will be known in advance so that everybody knows what the rules are.
Meanwhile, World Soccer governing bodies FIFA's Independent Ethics Committee imposes lifelong bans on 2 former Honduran officials for involvement in a multi-million-dollar bribery scheme to which both have pled guilty. Rafael Callejas, former president of the Honduran Football Association and a former member of the FIFA Marketing and TV Committee, and Alfredo Hawit Baniegas, former acting president of CONCACAF, the confederation that runs soccer in North and Central America, as well as the Caribbean, were banned from all national and international soccer-related activity, the Ethics Committee said. Hawit and Callejas were among 16 people charged last December with bribery schemes for marketing and broadcast rights in a dismantling of a Latin American soccer network by U.S. prosecutors. Aaron Romero, UNTV News and Rescue, New York.
The Chief of the Philippine National Police recommends to all PNP personnel and their families to watch the timely movie written and directed by Kuya Daniel Razon, Isang Araw, Ikatlong Yugto. Monokson tells us why.
After the Isang Araw, Ikatlong Yugto sponsors night last Tuesday, a special screening of the advocacy film of Kuya Daniel Razon was shown at the SM Sky Dome last night. This is for the cast and their relatives who were not able to watch the film, like PNP Chief Director General Ronald Bato de la Rosa. General Bato played the role of the Chief of the National Police, and boss of Daniel Baltazar, played by Kuya Daniel Razon in the third installment of Isang Araw the movie.
Very proud ako, nakita ko. Akala ko yung paggawa namin doon sa eksena na yun, doon sa opisina, akala ko ganun-ganun lang, pero pag nagawa na palang movie, nakikita ko maganda palang kinalabasan, ano? Kaya I'm very happy.
The general accepted the role because he believes in the good objective of Kuya Daniel Razon.
Go kagad ako. Dahil alam ko naman, sincere na tao ito. Pag ito ikausap mo, totohanan talaga yung sinasabi niya, gagawin talaga niya. So, full support kagad ako. At sana maging successful talaga itong movie na ito.
After watching the film, PNP Chief De La Rosa said that the theme of Isang Araw, Ikatlong Yugto is timely. He also recommends all the personnel of the Philippine National Police as well as their families to watch the advocacy film because many lessons can be learned from it and it will serve as inspiration to the police.
Very current, very current. What is happening right now sa Pilipinas, nakikita mo dyan sa movie na yan. Kaya nga, I am encouraging all the members of the Philippine National Police, including their families, to watch this movie. The movie itself, napakalaking kwan. Para ka nagbabasa ng libro. Nagbabasa ng libro about family, about mga nangyayari dahil sa ating bansa ngayon. At marami kang lessons na matututunan sa palabas na yun.
Part of the proceeds of the film will be allocated to aid drug dependents in the country who undergo rehabilitation and want to start anew.
Part of the proceeds will actually help them para doon sa ating pagnanais na maibangon yung mga dating nalugmok sa mga ganitong klase ng bisyo at makapagbagong buhay at makapaghanap buhay at ma-detoxify at the same time ma-rehabilitate sila talaga.
The film Isang Araw, Ikatlong Yugto is written and directed by Kuya Daniel Razon. Mon Hokson, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
And have a happy Tuesday.
Yes, happy Tuesday. 3 more days.
Happy Tuesday to everyone and have an advance happy long weekend.
Advance happy long weekend.
Yes.
Thank you, Monica. Those are the reasons behind the news, December 20, 2016. Angelo, Castro III.
Reasons we delivered to you as they unfold. I'm Gerry, Alcantara.
And I'm Darlene, Basingan, because we need to know.
We will always ask why. Thank you for watching. Bye News.